Well, good day, folks, and welcome back to The Secret Solve. It's a program where we look at the secret A Treasure Hunt by Byron Preisss, and we come up with some ideas concerning what's going on with this book. And today's subject is a little remedial training, or let's take the train, or let's stop at the train station, or let's just whistle as the train goes by, or let's have a train wreck. I'm not sure which direction this show will go, but there's a group of people in The Secret that believe that a train, the number 982 train in Herman Park, is a significant piece of information towards solving the secret puzzle. And how they arrived at this, whether it was they look at the back of the book and they saw the train and just decided, well, hey, that must mean there's a train somewhere. Um, well, anyway, it's okay. I agree. In the Chicago puzzle, there was a significant train wreck on those tracks about the time the book was written. Uh, One of the significant developments in American history was the Promontory Point, where the Pacific Railroad met the railroad coming from the Atlantic, and they drove a golden spike in order to connect the country. And after railroad service, a lot of things changed in the country from the Pony Express no longer being needed. Mail delivery became quicker. Uh, Travel across the country became easier, and the West was basically opened up, due to the train. So, as far as immigration references and important facts, I'm willing to pretty much go with the idea that the train is important. But is it the right train? That's the real question here. Is this the actual correct train? Okay, so this train, this 982 train, um, is basically a 210-2 type locomotive. It originated from the Alco Company or the Baldwin Manufacturing Works in Philadelphia. Uh, and they are designed as a Class F1. And this is the first type of locomotive that was built by Baldwin. Uh, if they were on the Santa Fe Railroad lines, they were called a Santa Fe. If they were on the Southern Pacific, they were called the SP. Many people call these decks for Deca or 10, which is the number of drive axle wheels, if you will, on the thing. An important piece of information here is that there's only two surviving members of this. Is the 976 eh, that and then the Southern Pacific number 3651. The 3651 was transferred to the Texas and New Orleans Railroad Company. I think it happened in the 50s. And it was actually at that point renumbered the 982. And this is the train they're making all kinds of fuss about down in Herman Park, now having been moved to the other park. And okay, so all right, you've got a train. People remember, they remember climbing on this train uh, at one time or another. But how did this train become so important to the secret? Was there some confirmation along the way that yeah, that train's important, or oh, I think you've got that train right? Uh, I'm just trying to figure out how this became confirmed as they take your task to the 982 item. And the reason I ask that question is because I don't see how there's any other confirmation in the verse that tells you that you're in Houston and you've got the right, correct item. And more specifically, this train has a history of being in Portland, Oregon, Eugene, Oregon. The train has a history of being used for the Southern Pacific in almost everywhere but Houston. In other words, this train was given to the JCs, uh, and the JCs then put it on display, and then a few people decided to restore the train. And so the train itself, engine number 3651, was used so many different places other than the actual location that it finally ended up residing. And the Southern Pacific, train was built in 1919 by Baldwin, uh, and they basically had to get a replacement train when this train went to be restored. And so I guess I just don't get it. I just don't get how this train became so important to the thing. But if you look at the history of the Southern Pacific, this may be where the clues actually reside, because here's where you run into the likes of Stanford, the Central Pacific Railroad, um, and the history of railroading in the Pacific. And so I guess if you want to go from the perspective that then, maybe there is a tie to San Francisco that you can get via this train. But, you know, to me, I like looking at, actual railroads that are possibly related to the back of the book information. And that takes me to Southern California and Hollywood. And since Hollywood is mentioned so many times in the book, I honestly believe that the solve for this is in Hollywood. And if you want to look at the Los Angeles Pacific Railroad Company, that used to be basically the line that was on Hollywood Boulevard. Hollywood Boulevard basically took the place of that. Uh, the Palms Division was built encompassing a line from Vineyard through Ivy Station, uh, which then became Culver City, to Ocean Park. You had the Venice Short Line portion of this. And then there's the trolley service. Many people think that a trolley is involved. Um, since the Southern Pacific, existed as far back as 1865, uh, you can go all the way and look at the uh, Central Pacific railroading history, uh, the different consolidations that occurred over time, and who was involved in that. And since we're talking about, the steam locomotives, so this might be, I guess, if you look at all the references to smoke in the back of the book, and if you want to consider the the Florida painting has that rocky background, and then also uh, the background for this image that people have linked to California have all that black in the background. I mean, this, if your task is shoveling coal into the boiler, if you will, and that's your task, then maybe indeed you have some coal shoveling aspects to this particular image, and that might explain what kind of wood. I might explain what kind of wood no lion fears. Because what is coal? What is coal, right? And so maybe that's the reference that you need to tie to the verse about the wood being dead. Uh, so I don't know if this makes sense or not. Uh, so fossils and amber may be found in coal. What is the formation of coal? How was coal actually formed? Uh, it's a black or brownish sedimentary rock formed as rock strata called coal seams. Coal is mostly carbon uh, and other elements. It's a fossil fuel. formed from dead plant matter. Uh, it decays into peat and is converted into coal by the heat and pressure of deep burial over millions of years. Vast deposits of coal originate in former wetlands and coal forests. Okay, so the steam engine, the use of coal increased. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's a stretch to go from the dead uh, plant material to dead uh, roots. The actual word coal comes from the Proto-Indian European root uh, live coal. Germanic cognates to old kolie, Dutch is cool. But anyway, I don't know if there's anything to be gotten out of that before. I've said that coal is important to this because the coal gasification plant that was in Florida is potentially leading you to that location. But again, it's unknown whether or not that's the part. Let's see. What else do I have? Get my bookmarks going over here. I was going to talk about the locomotives and the Transcontinental Railroad, uh, a brief history of the Pacific Railway. So again, the Pacific Railroad had to do with Theodore Judah, and we ran into the Judas before. There's a Judah in Wisconsin, and I always think that there's some circular reference between names of people involved in events at different locations. That if you had a Judah in Wisconsin, maybe you'll have a Judah in California that's important. Uh, but anyway, the history of the 41st parallel. So many people don't realize that the railroads were originally thought to have needed to be built along the different parallels, and one group of people wanted it to be built on a northern. And this falls into your the images and the verses and the images, they all have these latitude and longitude coordinates. Well, if you really like that way of thinking, maybe you ought to look at this the idea of Theodore Judah and the 41st parallel. By 1859, Judah received a letter from a storekeeper in Dutch Flat, California, offering to show Judah the best route along the old immigrant road through the mountains near the Donner Pass. The route had a gradual rise and required the line to cross the summit of only one mountain rather than two. Judah agreed, and he and Strong drew up letters of incorporation for the Central Pacific Railroad Company. He then had to go get some financing, and that's where he gets into working with these people named Mark Hopkins, Collis P. Huntington, Charles Crocker, and Leland Stanford, the governor. Well, he wasn't governor at the time, but he became governor. And these backers were later to become known as the Big Four. And I've done a solve for San Francisco utilizing the influence of the Big Four in San Francisco. But Judah sailed back to New York in 1863 to find investors who would buy his buy out those Sacramento partners. He had made the voyage to Panama and across the isthmus by train many times. He got yellow fever during this trip and died. 1 week after reaching New York City, Judah did not live to see the Central Pacific begin. Uh, so then the Big Four replaced Judah with Samuel Montague, and the Central Pacific Construction crews began building the line east from San Francisco to the Promontory Point. Okay. Well, anyway, so gets into the history of how Promontory Point eventually became the meeting point. You get into the Chinese workers that built most of that railroad from the Pacific. You talk about, the Indian tribes being changed and some of the conflicts they had with the Native Americans. Uh, So when Lincoln signed the Pacific Railroad Act in 1862, uh, the Central Pacific and Union were closing in on each other across northern Utah, aided by a Mormon workforce under contract to both companies, but neither side was interested in halting construction, as each company wanted to claim the $32,000 per mile subsidy from the government. At one point, the graders from both companies working ahead of track layers actually passed one another as they were unwilling to concede territory to their competitors. It's just kind of funny how all that stuff worked. So, on April 9th, 1869, Congress established the meeting point in an area known as Promontory Summit, north of the Great Salt Lake. And again, I believe in there's a puzzle that takes you to Salt Lake City. Some people want to put that one in Wisconsin, and that's okay. We want to go to Wisconsin. There's a Judah there, so I'm happy with that. So there's a little bit of information on that. I talked about the Santa Fe's. So there's an article here that shows the train engine number 3651. Oops, that's the UP. When it comes to trains, it's often interesting to note that different companies like UP and Santa Fe all had train numbers, and a Pacific train number 3651 might end up being a Texas and New Orleans number 982 at some point in its life, and so it's often difficult to do that. So if you want to look at a picture of the Texas Railway Preservation Association's picture of the old 982, you can find a picture of the old 982 here on this railfan.com Texas Museum page. It'll actually probably show you the picture of what that train looked like back at the time. When the train was sitting there either before it went to be restored on just a track, or whether this was it actually sitting on the track in the park where it was at. I'm not sure which, but there's an actual old historical picture of what the train looked like. Okay, well, anyway, that's about all the information I had in talking about the 982 and taking your task to the 982. Okay, well, what task would you have if you're at the PS 982? Or I mean the SP 982. Well, you'd have the job of shoveling coal, right? Probably. So the other thing, it's interesting that I was gonna talk about is another fun little thing about the 222. So let me close a bunch of tabs, and then we're going to talk about the 222. And so I actually believe the 222 is some addressing information off of Jackson Street that takes you directly to the location of the Chicago puzzle. The 222 is in the image figure's neck area, and there's some window glazing compound called the 222, and that window glazing compound would sync up with the idea of the Blue Arc of Lights, which is a set of windows atop the Britannica building in Chicago. But if you don't like the 222 working with that particular puzzle, I'm going to just give you some fun to work with here. And so what we're going to talk about is an Emmy award-winning program that was on television about the time that, and this was a breaking type of program. And so Room 222 is a 1969 drama series. It starred Karen Valentine and Lloyd Haynes, Denise Nichols, Michael Constantine, Jason, a few other people. But Room 222 is an American comedy produced by 20th Century Fox. It was basically on the Friday night lineup along with the Brady Bunch, the Partridge Family, and The Odd Couple, and Love American Style. And I think you need to become if you're young enough, if you're not very old and you haven't heard of any of this, I think you need to become acquainted with the Room 222 and Love American Style and maybe the Love Boat. Soon we'll be making another run. And I don't know exactly what subject that Byron Price taught when he was an educator in Philadelphia, but let's just give you the plot of Room 222. The series premiere focuses on an American history class in Room 222 at the fictional Walt Whitman High School in Los Angeles, California. It also depicts other events in and outside the school, such as the home lives of the racially diverse student body and faculty. In fact, this show is literally a presentation of utopia in the educational system, where blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, a multiracial faculty teach students who are eager to learn and want to be in class. Almost none of the time. I just encourage you to watch like the first episode of this, where they're in the classroom and this um, character comes in, Karen Valentine comes in, and gets introduced as being the Alice Johnson, who's a student teacher. Well, she actually won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. But this show took on such things as Vietnam, women's rights, race relations, and Watergate. Uh, and most of the plots are featured themes still common to modern day teenagers. For example, the 69 episode Funny Boy deals with a class clown who is self conscious about being overweight. Yeah, that was me in high school. In the 1971 episode, What is a Man? A student is a mistaken victim of anti gay harassment. And in the 1974 episode, I Don't Raise My Girl to Be a Soldier, delves into parent, teenage child issues. But anyway, Lloyd Haynes, Denise Nicholas, and Michael Constantine, and then Karen Valentine. Valentino, Rudy Valentino. Well, anyway, I just wanted to let you know that there was actually a show called Room 222. And as Byron started out as an educator in Philadelphia, I don't know if he taught English or history or what he taught, but American history class, Room 222. And anyway, I don't know if you get very far by looking at any of these individual actors and actresses like Karen Valentine or any of this, but I don't know. I just think it's just interesting that why won't it let me look at that? It's giving me the HTML format of this. Anyway, so she won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy for this. She was also in a 1978 Disney film called Hot Lead and Cold Feet, and the North Avenue Irregulars. And I didn't see what any of those were about. All right, so there's the oh, by the way, in 1969, Valentine played Gidget in the 1969 film Gidget Grows Up. By the way, and Gidget was a pretty big thing too. Let's see, Denise Nichols, she's still alive. Denise Donna Nichols. Uh, uh, she also played. Well, that show came on after, but anyway, she moved to Milan, Michigan, and Nicholas was born to Louise and Otto Nicholas. Otto Nicholas. Otto has a lot to do with the train, by the way. There's an Otto in the history of training that's important. In Detroit, where she spent her early years. Then she moved to Milan, Michigan, a small town south of Ann Arbor. Wow, I was just in Michigan the other day talking about Ipsy and Ypsilanti and the Michigan Wolverines and how that puzzle makes more sense in Michigan. And okay, you guys, okay, this is just directed to the few people that have made the comment. Well, I don't know how you're ever going to solve any of these puzzles by looking at where people were born and what and all of where they grew up and all of that. Well, I think if you follow the instructions in the front of the book on the pages of how the story that was told by the so it starts out that this story was told to me by my grandfather, and it was told to him by his grandfather, and it was told to him by even his grandfather, and then they define grandfather as somebody of old or older. I'm just telling you, what you have to do is figure out who the descendants are of some of these people that were the original either settlers or fairies or whatever you have, and figure out who their descendants are. And if you go back to like Lucille Ball descended from one of the original settlers of the 13 colonies. You go back to like references to Washington, you go back to references to like Lincoln, to Grant, and you follow their spawn, if you will, out to the 1970s and 80s and 60s. And if you come across a person that has Jewish, Russian immigration ties, just like he says in the preface to the book, this book is dedicated to Alexander, blah, blah, blah. And all of these people that he dedicated this book to, this book is dedicated to Alexander Ginsburg, Yuri Orlov, Anatoly, Andrei, Victor, George. Find out who these people are. One of them was a Soviet journalist. I'll bet you there's a puzzle that has to do with a Soviet journalist. Um, he fell out a window. Okay, so I bet you there's one of these puzzles that has to do with somebody falling out a window. Uh, Sakharov was a nuclear scientist, a dissident, and he designed the Russian nuclear. He's the father of the piano player. Victor Alexander spent 9 years in prison and wrote about a psych hospital, institute. I bet you there's one of these puzzles that has to do with that. Uh, this Nobel, so this Nikolai Vladimiro started Amnesty International. He wrote a book called Guard Dog. I bet you one of these has to do with a dog. Maybe it's Balto over there in Central Park. Henry Jackson, Everett Washington. He was in some war. Yuri Orlov has studied the particle accelerator. He's a physicist. Anatoly Sharansky is a dissident, political journalist. He was a chess prodigy. A chess prodigy. How many times have we seen a chess thing on the table? Okay, I'm looking at the front of the book, guys. Instead of focusing on the back of the book, I'm looking at the front of the book. I hope I'm making you happy now that I'm looking at the front of the book and seeing what we have in the front of the book. Ben Asen was born in 1950. He was 32 when The Secret came out. Preisss was born in 53, so he was like almost 30. In 1974, he was a book packager and interested in educational comics. So anyway, he might have been the one that tried to develop Room 222 into a. He might have been the one that actually worked on developing Room 222 into a comic book, uh, perhaps. So again, it's a deep dive, folks. If you want to find the secret, you've got to take a deep dive. You know, you got to get into the deep water. You can't just look at the surface water. Oh, I see a train with a 9 and an 8 and a 2 on it. Well, I guarantee you that you've got the wrong train. I guarantee you got the wrong city. And that your 982 is probably the address on Vine Street in Hollywood, where there's a elementary school with a bunch of freaking vine on it. And eventually you'll get to the little teapot that's short and stout. And at some point there's going to be a statue with a hand on its hip and its hand sticking out. And then you'll start singing, the song, and you might know what they were really talking about here when you get to the thing of it. I don't know if I can find it real quick so I can recite it to you. Where is it? I gotta get it. I gotta get the song so I can sing it. Uh, I need to sing it. I gotta look that up. I gotta get a little teapot lyrics. So yeah, can go along with me and learn a little bit about history. Okay, well I can't play music and you hear it. Maybe here's where the words are. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle and here is my spout. When I get all steamed up, hear me shout. Tip me over and pour me out. Oh, did you hear a whistle? And this one's in the National Literary Trust. Uh, I'm just saying that when I grew up, my mom, we were being taught this song by in school and kids, and Donald John DeFore. It was in the Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet from 1952 to 57, and he was uh, he was an engineer for the Chicago and Northwestern Railroad. Oh, if you follow the information, you get all kinds of little fun things. Like, uh, he was not a major study. He left and enrolled at the Pasadena Community Playhouse, where he won a scholarship and stayed for 3 years. And I actually think this puzzle could be in Pasadena, and it could be about the Rose Parade. He died in Santa Monica in 1993. So once again, Byron Preisss predicts the future. But anyway, the other one is okay. So he was on the Lux Radio Theater. Yeah, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet's probably where he falls in. And again, I'm not putting it past Byron Preisss to have used the Hollywood Walk of Fame as some sort of indicator in the location of his puzzle. In other words, if you go to Hollywood and Vine, you're at Groman's theater, right? And if you look at the history of Grauman's theater, hell, I'm not doing anything for the next 20 minutes. Let's just look at the history of Grauman's theater. Hollywood Walk of Fame. I'm sure I can get a link from here to get me that. And I wouldn't put it past old Byron to use this. But the main thing is that pagoda looking thing. Uh, you know, Oh God, I don't want that. I want a wiki. I want a wiki. I want a Wikipedia article where I can click links. Okay, Hollywood Walk of Fame. I don't know why it's. I don't know why it's doing that. Well, the Walk of Fame runs east to west on Hollywood Boulevard from Gower Street to La Brea Avenue. Um, so the TLC's Chinese Theater. Now, this could be the spot. It's referred to as Grauman's Theater. It's a movie palace. But let's look at the original theater was commissioned following the success of the Grauman's Egyptian Theater, which opened in 22. There's a certain architectural style here. So you see in the back of the book where you have the airplane circling the guy on top of the Empire State Building, and many of you probably know that that's from King Kong, right? Uh, the theater opened May 18th, 1927, with the premiere of Cecil B. DeMille's "The King of Kings." Oh, not the King of Kongs. Well, anyway, has been since been home to many premieres, including the launch of the 1977 movie by George Lucas called um, Star Wars. Uh, so anyway, originally named Grauman's, it was renamed Mann's. Ted Mann, you have a theater named after you. It was renamed Mann's Chinese Theater in '73 and reverted to its original name in 2001. So at the time of the writing of the book, this place would have been named Ted Mann's Chinese Theater. Okay, I just having a little bit too much fun with that. But anyway, Raymond M. Kennedy. Okay, so here's where we get into Anna May Wong. Uh, so her name is Wong Lu Song, known professionally as Anna May Wong. And maybe the image in this picture is Anna May Wong because she is the first Chinese American film star in Hollywood. She was in silent film and then went into the talkies and later into regular movies. But, some of the movies, Daughter of the Dragon, Shanghai Express, Jabba Head, Daughter of Shanghai. They made, she was, although she was, okay, here's the other thing about the lion. That no lion fears. So if you've ever watched an MGM movie from this period, you have the roaring lion, right? The roaring lion. And so maybe she did not fear the lion because she basically wouldn't do certain things that they wanted her to do. In 1930 to 34, the Hays Code of Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America insisted only that miscegenation was forbidden and nothing about anything else. So anyway. Oh, here's an interesting one. MGM screen tested Wong for the supporting role of Lotus, the seductress. I don't know where we ran into Lotus before, but I remember reading something about it. Okay, so she made history on television in '51. The Gallery of Madame Lu Zong, the first ever U.S. television show starring an Asian American series lead. She had been planning to return to the film Flower Drum Song when she died in '61 at the age of 56 from a heart attack. Wong was remembered principally for her stereotypical, quote, dragon lady and demure butterfly roles that she was often given. And you could read more about the early life of Anna May Wong if you'd like. But I again say you're not looking at these pictures. You're not getting the right historical context in terms of when and where and who. Uh, and if we keep working on it, we might come up with some of these uh, things that make sense, and not just look at a train and then build a whole solve based upon a train. Building a solve based upon a train. Well, now we can talk about Peace Train because primarily we're talking about peace, right? That's mainly what this is about. So the Peace Train is a song by Cat Stevens. Maybe this is the cat eye guy we're looking at. So Peace Train is a 71 song by Cat Stevens, taken from his album Teaser and the Firecat. Uh, so probably won't get much more out of that other than tell you that Yusuf Islam, born Stephen Dimitri Georgiou, commonly known by the stage name Cat Stevens, Yusuf, and Yusuf slash Cat Stevens is a British-born songmaker. Okay, so this guy was a really popular singer in 1967, through, let's say, 1972. He has these songs called Father and Son, Wild World, Moon Shadow, Peace Train, and Morning is Broken. But he converted in December of 1977 and adopted the name Yusuf Islam the following year. In 79, he auctioned his guitars for charity, left his musical career to devote himself to educational and philanthropic causes in the Muslim community. He was since he has since bought back at least one of his guitars he sold as a result for his son. But anyway, uh, he just dropped off. He dropped off of the music scene at the point of his penultimate popularity. And so, I don't know. Uh, his father was Greek Orthodox and his mother was a Baptist. Uh, so there's that guy. Um, but I just find it interesting that there you have. And again, this guy goes into the whole Cat Stevens goes into the Jimi Hendrix experience and all this other excitement that you can have looking at Jimi Hendrix. You can also put him with the girl that everybody wants to put in San Francisco as the puzzle. Pearl. Pearl is her name. All right. Anybody joining in today? Hey, Jeff. Good afternoon. Hey, Amy Gwen. How's it going? I remember the show, but don't remember the show. Is that the 222? Oh, did I have a copyright infringement on my show? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I copyright infringed somewhere? Okay, well, I guess I tried to play the music. But anyway, I think it's important to look at some of these things like Room 222 because you've got the 222 thing in the back of the book. And I think Byron started out in Philadelphia as a history teacher. Uh, the 982 train was built at the Baldwin, not Baldwin Piano Company, but the Baldwin Boiler and Train Yard, where they made that train in Philly. And so, yeah, I just the lack of depth of research on just going and finding a train with a 9 and 8 and a 2 on it, it seems to be a little lazy to me. I think the 982, if it does mean this train, then I don't know. Oh, me singing. Actually, I think the Teacup song might actually be old enough now that it's not covered. I mean, I could right now put on black and white Mickey Mouse ears. I could put on black and white Mickey Mouse ears like all the young kids do and not have to pay a royalty because the original cellophane or old the old black and white is now not copyright protected. There's so many things that are coming out of copyright protection that it's almost crazy. That a lot of these things that a lot of Disney stuff, Steamboat Willie, the original Mickey Mouse Steamboat Willies. I could play the original Mickey Mouse Steamboat Willie on my channel over and over and over and over again now, and not be hit with a copyright infringement because it's expired. Uh, I can read to you all of the books that were written before 1935, 4 something. I could just start reading out of books and no copyright infringement whatsoever. Anyway, yeah, I believe Happy Birthday is officially an old enough tune that there would be no copyright infringement for singing Happy Birthday as well. Rudy Valentino. I think Rudy Valentino is in the back of the book. Rudolph Valentino. So Rudolph Pietro Filberto Raffaello Guglielmi di Valentina di Antoguella. Try saying that real fast. Rudolfo Pietro Filiberto Raffaello Guglielmi di Valentina di Antoguella. May 6, 1895, August 23, 1926. Six. Known professionally as Rudolph Valentino, nicknamed the Latin Lover, was an Italian actor based in the United States who starred in several well-known silent films, like The Four Horsemen. Oh, there's four, and then they're split. The Sheik, Blood and Sand, The Eagle, and The Son of Sheik. He's a sex symbol, known as Hollywood's Latin Lover, and the Great Lover, or simply Valentino. His early death at the age of 31 caused mass hysteria among his fans, further cementing his place in early cinematic history as a cultural film icon. Again, Byron seems to like these people that have early, like they're all teen angels. The only sad part is this guy didn't die at 27. But anyway, he's an Italian. He's captain of either his father was a captain of the cavalry or a veterinarian. He died when he was 11. Maria Berthe Gabrielle Barbine was French and Turinese. So anyway, that was his mother. He was indulged because of his looks and his playful personality. His mother coddled him. He arrived in New York. He supported himself with odd jobs and bussing tables in restaurants and gardening. Oh, God knows. Oh, Jesus Christ. Gardening, and he bussed tables. I think I just now figured out where in Hollywood I need to go look. Valentino once worked as a busboy at Murray's on 42nd Street and was well liked. But he didn't do such a good job and was fired. Maybe he was the maitre demon. While he was living on the streets, Valentino would occasionally come back to Murray's for lunch, and the staff would slip him some food. Joe Panny, who owned Castles by the Sea, the Colony, and the Woodmanston Inn, was the first to hire Rudolph to dance the tango with Joan Sawyer for $50 a week. Eventually, he found work as a taxi dancer at Maxim's restaurant and cabaret. I like it when I can find a tap dancer, for sure. He eventually befriended Chilean actress Blanca de Suarez, who was unhappily married to businessman John de Suarez, and whom he had a son. Whether Blanca and Valentino actually had a romantic relationship is unknown. But when the de Salazes divorced, Valentino took the stand to support Blanca claims of infidelity on her husband's part. Following the divorce, John reportedly used his political connections to have Valentino arrested, uh, along with Mrs. Time, a known madam, on some unspecified vice charges. The evidence was flimsy at best, and after a few days in jail, Valentino's bail was lowered to 1,500. So there was a big scandal. He couldn't find employment. Uh, Shortly after the trial, Blanca de Salas fatally shot her ex-husband during a custody dispute over their son. Fearful of being called as a witness again, he left town and joined a traveling musical that led him to the West Coast. Okay, in 1917, Valentino joined an opera company that traveled to Utah, where it was disbanded. Oh, I wonder if it was in Salt Lake. I wonder if it was near Promontory Point and had anything to do with the railroad. He then joined the Al Jolson production of Robinson Crusoe and eventually landed in Los Angeles. He was by fall though, he was in San Francisco. Okay. Well, anyway, he appeared as second lead in The Delicious Little Devil in 1919. All right. So here's an interesting part. He returned to visit New York in 1917. He stayed with friends in the Greenwich Village, eventually settling in Bayside, Queens. There he met Paul Ivano, who would greatly help his career. So he then traveled back to this Ivano guy was a Siberian French-American cinematographer. Siberian? Huh. I love that. Okay. The Sheik. Anyway, it'll be important to you. Remember I talked about Room 222 and Karen Valentine as starring in that one? And then I talked about Rudolph Valentino. And then we had the secret tribute hunt that was launched on Valentine's Day. I wonder how much John Michaels actually knew. But the Sheik is important because it gives you some information. All right. So then the Eagles, the Ypsilanti team name is the Eagles. Just throwing that out there. But Valentino chose the first United Artists product, the Eagle. It's a film about a lieutenant in the Russian army. Oh, I really, really like these Russians. I actually made my book dedicated. Oh, I'm going to the front of the book, guys. The guys who don't think I look at the book. I'm going to the front of the book. I'm looking at the dedication again. Let me read that dedication again, in case you forgot. This book is dedicated to a bunch of Russians. You wonder why I'm looking for Russians? It doesn't. I just taken Byron at his word. So anyway, this eagle is mentioned 4 times in the first 15 pages of the book. And he's not talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, by the way, just to help you out with that. Although he does call it the new found land, and in the N and the F and the L, every time he says new found land in the first few pages of the book, they are all capitalized, and maybe we are talking about the NFL. And if we are talking about the NFL, then by God, we need to talk about Commissioner Roger Goodell. Remember, all of this is about good. Remember, goodness first. It says in the first few pages that always goodness first. So why not we start with Roger Goodell? Because we're always talking about goodness first. And he was born in 1959. He began his career with the NFL in 82. Oh, sorry, bud. You're too late. I can't use you. And I wanted to because you were born in Jamestown, New York. But his father is a United States Senator by the name of Charles Ellsworth Goodell. So maybe I can use the Goodell. And Charles Ellsworth Goodell Jr., meaning that his father was a Goodell. Maybe there is something here. Let's see. So we have Goodell. We have Charles Ellsworth Goodell Jr., American politician. He represented New York in the Senate, mind you. He came into office following the deaths of his predecessors, first in the special election and second as a temporary appointee succeeding Robert F. Kennedy. He accepted an appointment by Governor Nelson Rockefeller. Oh, there's a Rockefeller! I always love it when I find a Rockefeller. To fill the vacancy caused by the assassination of United States Senator Robert F. Kennedy in June of '68. Having earned the support of both Republican and Liberal parties, he lost a three-way to conservative partner James L. Buckley. Goodell was the father. He's the father of the NFL commissioner. Okay, but Goodell Sr., remember, we're always seeking goodness. We're seeking goodness. It says that in the first few pages. We're talking about somebody born in Jamestown, New York, the son of Francesca and Charles Ellsworth Goodell the first. He went to Williams College, and he's a Navy guy. He served. I always like it when we can find a seaman second class. And then he went to the Air Force. Oh, he's got his wings too. He was a Yaley though. He didn't go to Harvard. That always kind of sucks. But there you go. There's Goodell, and remember, in the front of the book, it's always for good. Remember, it says, let me read those lines in the goodness first, right? Is it something about goodness first and peace? Peace of people, the shining ones? Oh, yeah. Could be. All right. I just had to have the fun with that. It was kind of low-hanging fruit because I already knew all that information. I didn't actually look that up on the fly. I knew all that information before. Okay, Jeff says I could sing Happy Birthday if I wanted. Okay, I'll start singing. Oh, what time do the Bills come on? Talk about the Buffalo Bills. They're going to be on soon. All right, well, I've almost put an hour in. I'm just telling you, Rudy Valentino, if you like the way I'm thinking here, if you like the fact that there's a guy playing pool, here's Valentino with Natasha Rambova. Okay, so here's the other reason I wanted to bring it to old Rudy Valentino, is because I actually think that the image figure is Natasha Katrina, otherwise known as Natalie Wood. But here's another Natasha, if you don't like that one, and that's Natasha Rambova, of whom Valentino ended up marrying or having a relationship. Okay, Valentino once told gossip columnist Luella Parsons that the women I love don't love me, the others don't matter. He claims that despite his success as a sex symbol, in his personal love life, he never achieved happiness. He married Jane Acker. He had relationships with Alla Nazimova, and she's a Russian-American actress, director, and screenwriter. He never consummated that marriage, though, unfortunately. He was with Winifred Shaughnessy, known by her stage name, Natasha Rambova. She's a costume designer, active in Hollywood. She abandoned design to pursue other interests, especially Egyptology. She studied Egyptology. Well, no wonder she was excited to be with the Latin lover. Rudy Valentino was also investigated for a possible violation of the Mann Act, the Ted Mann Act. Oh, God. I knew Ted Man was in here somewhere. I just didn't know where I'd find him. All right. Well, I've had some fun with that. Hollywood Babylon is a book by filmmaker Kenneth Anger. Ooh, that one could be good. Paula Negri was a Polish stage and film actress and singer. She achieved worldwide fame during the silent golden film era. Uh, he had a relationship with her as well. Added to suspicion that Valentina was gay and that these were lavender marriages. Remember we talked about the lavender lady back in St. Louis and how at the door at Stonewall's door the air smells sweet because the lavender lady of St. Louis used to put perfume in the ink of the painters that painted art for her, and how that made the room smell sweet. All right. Well, then obviously there's got to be rumors that Rudy Valentino was gay, so that always makes it more interesting. Uh, but dying at a young age is always good. In 1993, he was referenced in the film Mud and Sand, a parody of Blood and Sand. Uh, this movie was parodied by Stan Laurel, and he played a bullfighter named Rhubarb Vaseline. That's pretty funny. Even back in the 1920s, lampooning. They were lampooning. In the 1977 spoof comedy, The World's Greatest Lover, Valentina was played by Gene Wilder. uh, man, this, to be the Latin lover. All right, what else is going on? Anything? Well, I think I'm gonna about wrap this one up. I got my whole hour in, so I can get paid by the underworld of the secret for promoting solve ideas that are crazy, misleading, and otherwise incorrect. And don't feel like you have any inclination to go look at the Rudy Valentino statue over by the pool next to the elementary school with all of the vine leaves hanging on the building, because I don't think it's there. Or or just maybe the reason there's all those rocks in the background is because this one's actually buried in a pedestal up for a statue that's made of rock. Maybe this one's actually on a statue base that you could dig into the rocks and find the cask. But we'll never know. All right. Have a good day.